Good morning, everyone, or good noon. Getting this ready up to go here. Bear with me for 1 second. Okay, there we go. I think we are in business. Good morning, good morning. We are going to get started in just a couple of minutes for our pre-trip webinar. The excitement begins. Welcome everyone. Just waiting for my colleague from South Africa to join and the rest of our group participants. Good morning, Helen. Good morning, Linda. And yeah, so just bear with me for a couple of minutes. We're going to hopefully start right at noon Eastern time. And I'm super excited. I'm sure you are as well. I was talking at length with Jackie, who you'll meet in a moment, who is my partner in crime. Log into the email account assigned by the host. Okay, just a second. Yeah. Okay, 1 second. She's just having some login difficulties here, so just bear with me for a second. Good morning, everyone else. I'm just getting our my colleague set up here, who is joining us, who is the one who has helped me put this whole program together. So, okay. Okay, so just bear with me for 1 second. Good afternoon, good morning for another 2 minutes. All right. I don't have any support today because it's Sunday, so bear with me for a second here. I have to manage all this stuff myself. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna have to do that. Okay. Yeah, bear with me for half a second. I'm going to stop the screen share for a second. Screen share. Okay, I have to copy invite link. Okay, Jackie. Here we go. We're going to get started in hopefully a minute or so. I'm just waiting for Jackie to join us. Jackie is my colleague in Africa who puts together these programs for us. She is a Safari expert and Safari host herself. And so she is instrumental in not only coordinating the program, but also making sure that all of the details are ready and in order. And as I say, I was speaking with her at length yesterday to make sure that that we're ready to go. And so she's going to be joining us to give you some information on the program and how to prepare, because going into something like this, obviously you want to be well prepared. So so just bear with me for a second. As I say, she was just having some login challenges, but hopefully that will be resolved and then we will get going. So I'm going to go back over here. Attendees. Okay, good afternoon. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay, just bear with me for a second. Sorry, Jackie's having some login difficulties. I'm not sure why. So I apologize for that. I'm going to try to figure out what the problem is. So as I say, we were just chatting via this format before, but of course I don't have any support. So God knows it always happens that when you don't have any tech support on hand, that is when the problems happen. So just bear with me for a second. Yeah, so again, sorry for the delay. We're going to get started any minute now, I hope, as soon as I can get Jackie logged in here. Link ID, okay. Sorry, just bear with me for a sec, folks. I'm just trying to figure out why it is that he is not able to log in. We're going to give this one more minute. And otherwise, we're going to try and continue without her, which would be unfortunate. But if she can't get in, then is not much I can do about that. Okay, folks, I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do, so we may just have to continue without her. For some reason, she can't get in, and I don't know why. And neither does she. Registration link. HG. Okay. Okay, folks, sorry, we're going to continue on. If she joins us, she joins us. And if she doesn't, she doesn't. My sincere apologies for that. Yeah, sometimes Zoom is not our friend because it does things that don't make any sense. So, okay, let me just get back up here. Okay, yeah, good morning. Okay, so we're going to get started. And as I say, with any luck, we'll be joined by, Jackie. So apologies for the day. Once again, welcome to our pre-trip webinar, Dunes in the Delta, our trip through Namibia and Botswana, which is happening obviously in the end of this month. We're already going to be there. So I hope you're as excited as I am, and I hope you're ready to Ask any questions that you have, and I'll try to address as many questions as I can. And if for some reason, again, the intention was to have my colleague and good friend Jackie in Africa, who is a safari expert, and she's the one that has helped us put together all the details for this program. So I'm still hoping that maybe she'll be able to join us, but if not, if there's anything that I cannot answer, we will certainly get in touch with her, and we'll get those questions answered as soon as possible. So we're going to talk today about pre-trip preparation. We're going to talk about getting there. I'll cover the itinerary in brief. I'm not going to go into any great detail about it. Hopefully you received our pre-trip information document yesterday, and that will outline the program. And you'll note, anyway, I'll tell you about that when we get to it, about the itinerary and the information there, because the main thing is that you have to know about a safari is nothing that is planned is set in stone. Everything could change as it relates to the specific hours that we do stuff and when we leave and when we arrive, because we're in the middle of Africa, so anything can happen. Let me start off by talking about documentation, passports. I'm just going to touch on this briefly because I think that everybody pretty much will read through the document and knows what they need. We have no visa requirements for either Namibia or Botswana, so that's obviously a good thing. There's no preparations there that are involved. As if you are transiting via South Africa, the same thing applies. The only other documents that you might need, and they're not really documents, the only other thing to be mindful of would be any vaccinations that you wish to get. Now, at the moment, not at the moment, but I'm sure it's not going to change in a few weeks, there are no mandatory vaccinations for any of these places. However, we strongly recommend, if you haven't already done so, and you should do so soon, is to speak to your physician or go to a travel medical clinic and get their advice on what you should do in terms of inoculations for Africa. And so one big question is yellow fever, but as we are not, unless for some reason you're going to travel through Zambia before this trip starts, or some other yellow fever risk country, you don't require a yellow fever certificate to enter any of these countries. Of course, if you do happen to be doing that, then you might want to look into that. Or if you have a yellow fever certificate from a previous trip to Africa or Central America or South America, then you may wish to bring that along. But there's no requirement for any of that. So I'm sure that many of you will have the question, what should we take? We cannot give you advice on that. All I can say is that malaria is something that will be strongly recommended by your physician to take an anti-malaria prophylaxis. We are at the end of the wet season, beginning of the dry season so it's a great time to be visiting for a number of reasons that we'll get into, and that's why you signed up for this trip at this time. And so mosquitoes are around, we can't avoid them. And the degree of risk as it relates to that is difficult. I would say that Jackie would characterize it generally as low, but at the same time, and again, we are not saying anything official about this because we can't, but the recommendation is it's probably a good idea to take an anti-malaria prophylaxis. So that's all I'm going to say about that. There's a number of other things that you could do, but you just want to make sure you look into that, consult with the appropriate authority, and make some decisions regarding that. Because with the anti-malaria prophylaxis, you generally have to start a week before you leave, depending on which one it is, and so on and so forth. So that passport and documents, and yeah. So just to remind you again of the itinerary, and again, I'm going to cover this in brief. You should look through the original itinerary we sent and the pre-trip information, which gives you an overview of it. Nothing has changed in all of that. But we will, of course, start our trip in Windhoek, the capital of Namibia, where we'll have a night. Some of you are coming in a day early. to sort of rest up, recover. We're going to have a lovely welcome dinner there. And we are going by charter flight, as you know, from Windhoek down to the Sossusvlei, which is an incredible area of sand dunes that we're going to fly over and spend the first couple of nights in there. And then from there, again, by charter flight up to Swakopmund, which is a former German colony town on the very west coast of Namibia. And then our driving starts. So then we have several days of some pretty long drives to get to these places. So up to Damaraland and Twyfelfontein, where we're going to be visiting a wonderful desert camp up there. And then overland again up to Etosha, which is the giant salt pan. And then we have our longest driving day. Sorry, we'll cross Etosha in one day and spend a couple of nights at Ongoma. And then our longest driving day will be from Ongoma over to Caprivi, which is this narrow strip of land that is part of Namibia, but is on the border between Angola and Botswana. And we'll enjoy some very interesting game drives in there before our last overland leg, which is from there down to Maun in Botswana. And then we have charter flights from Maun up to Savute Lodge in the northern part of Botswana, and then down into the Okavango Delta for a few nights and back to Maun, where our trip will end up. And so that nothing has changed with respect to all that. So let's talk about packing. And I think the thing to note about packing is you want to pack light. And so we put in the document about the packing requirements. The biggest challenge that we have is that there is relatively limited space in our safari jeeps to transport large luggage. That's why the request is no hard suitcases. And so, and I know in the case of two of our members that are on a prolonged trip, in fact, they're here with me in Sicily right now, and we're continuing on through Italy for the next few weeks until we go to Africa. So we've made a slight exemption there because of the length of their travels and so on and so forth. But please, it's really important that you try to pack everything in duffel bag type luggage because there is limited capacity in the Jeeps. And you know, this we've sort of emphasized this from the beginning. And the luggage. So what's going to happen? Just so you're a little bit aware in terms of preparation, when we leave Windhoek and take our first charter flights down to the Sossusvlei for 2 nights and then up to Swakopmund, we're going to ask you to consolidate as much as possible your bags into one. So if you're traveling as 2, to consolidate into 1 and take stuff that you need for just those 2 nights, and the rest of the stuff we're going to send overland directly to Swakopmund, because we have now you can still take, I think it's about 15 kilograms each on that flight from Windhoek down to Sossusvlei and Sossusvlei up to Swakopmund. So it's more than you'll possibly need. I mean, my personal plan is to take about 10 in total because you just don't need that much stuff. But, you know, I know everybody's needs are a little bit different, but the key is to pack light. So that's the one time that you'll be slightly separated from some of your luggage for a couple of days, just because if you do have larger luggage that you need to take with you, it's just best to avoid it on those charter flights. And then again, we're going to be in safari jeeps for the rest of the trip until we get to Maun, and then once again charter flights. So the lighter you can travel, the better it is. There's laundry facility at all the lodges. It's free, it's included in the price in Botswana. It's a nominal extra charge in Namibia, so you'll be able to get laundry done on a frequent basis. So yeah, you just don't need to take, you'll need less than you think you need, is the bottom line. In terms of what actually to wear, so safari wear, generally just light clothes. So, you know, light colored safari pants. One thing you notice in there is if you want to avoid blues, you want to really avoid any colors. You kind of want to stick to the beiges and the browns. Cotton, anything that is wicking, because you'll have quite a bit of temperature fluctuation. So you're talking about cooler temperatures at night going down to even as low as 10 degrees, probably more like 12 to 14. So it'll be lovely sleeping weather. but it's going to get up into the mid-20s during the day. So you want to be able to have some layers, particularly if you think about sunset game drives that we're going to be doing, when you may go out at sort of 3, 4 in the afternoon and it's going to be hot, 25, 26 degrees. Then as soon as the sun goes down, temperature cools off quite quickly. So having a light shell or even lined shell or something of that nature, so that you will stay warm. And what I find, my personal experience, the key to packing is your outerwear. You take like 2 pairs of safari pants, kind of a thing. Everything is informal. Like there's really nothing to dress up for at all. Everybody else is in the same boat. So as a result, just seeing this for you. Okay, so anyway, Jackie's still trying to get in. I can't really help her at this point because I'm on a roll. Yeah, you want to keep your as close to a minimum. You bring undergarments is the best thing. I like lots of cotton, light cotton undershirts and underwear and so on. Easy to wash, quick to change, wicking, fast drying. It's worth the investment in that stuff because it's actually great travel clothes for a lot of different places. Other things that, so that's basically it clothing wise. It is important, as I say, because it's cooler in the evenings. Sometimes we're sitting outside in the evening. So, a light sweater and so on. If it for some reason is too cold to sit outside, then obviously we'll sit inside. But, the benefit of being in Africa and these experiences is that we want to enjoy the great outdoors as much as possible. So that's key. So if there are questions, by the way, I will answer them at the end. Just want to get my question box up here. Where's my question box? Okay. As I say, I always have the technical challenges. So other things to remember in terms of packing. So if you, again, look at the pre-trip information document, your adapters are important. They use in Namibia, they actually have a South African plug, which is a little bit different than, it looks like a European plug. And sometimes the European plugs will actually fit into it. But technically their plugs are, the brown pins are a little bit thicker. So you're not going to find that adapter likely anywhere. However, Jackie has assured me that in pretty much all the places, they have multi pin plugs. So you may even be able to fit your North American plug directly in, but a European plug will normally be accommodated by virtue of that. So if you have all of those all-in-one sort of adapter things, you'll find something that fits, will make it work. For Botswana, they tend to use the Type M style of plug, like this one here in the middle, for the UK. And so same thing, the lodges pretty much in the meantime all have multi plug things, outlets, so you can fit a North American style plug directly into that. However, if you have these adapters, plugs, please take them with you. The most important thing is for your camera equipment, your phone or your iPad or whatever, that type of thing that you're going to take with you. I don't really recommend bringing hair dryers and all the rest of that stuff unless it's critical. Of course, you can bring it with you if you like. You do need to double check that the voltage will work. In most cases, most new appliances will. You're talking about 220, so European voltage, 220, 230 in Namibia and Botswana. And so if it's an older appliance, take that into account. Then what else to remember as per the list? So as I mentioned about insects, you may want to bring some insect repellent from Canada. You can buy it there. You can buy it at the lodges. It may not be the best quality stuff. It may be. My experience is that the bugs in Africa are, they can carry malaria, for example. I mean, if it happens to be present in the area, the local community at that time. The volume is less than we're used to at home, particularly those who come from places like Winnipeg or Central Ontario or whatever it happens to be. So our repellents at home, Muskol and Deep Woods, often that stuff with a high DEET rating, is actually quite effective. So it could be worthwhile to bring. I suspect we'll do a little shopping trip when we're in Windhoek the afternoon that we arrive, to pick up any last minute things that you might have forgotten or you didn't want to pack, or it was too much, or whatever it happens to be. Sun protection, really important. Again, you're not going to get the kind of stuff that you think you want to get at home. So in terms of the SPF factor, the sun can be quite strong, even if it feels cool outside. So do bring your favorite brand with a high SPF or a factor, a sun hat for sure. Good polarized sunglasses. Again, this is where, if you don't already have a pair, investing in a pair of good polarized sunglasses is worth it, because particularly in the drier desert part, it helps a lot with just having better vision. I mean, for lack of a better way to explain it. So that's pretty important as well. I think that covers most of the things as far as general stuff to remember. We put in there as well an umbrella. Could rain, not likely to see a lot of rain on this trip. And we are in covered vehicles for the certainly the whole overland part of the journey from Namibia all the way through until we get to Maun. So we're covered from rain. We're not likely going to be standing outside in the rain very much. It's not going to rain in the Sossusvlei Desert. It doesn't rain there very often. So, I wouldn't call it an essential, but if you've got a decent portable umbrella, you never know. If you carry it, you probably never use it. So yeah, it will be covered in most of the time. So you're not going to be out in the brilliant sun or in the pouring rain exposed for very long. Let's talk about currency for a second. You're not going to need a ton of cash there. So the gratuities are all covered, and one of our members asked a question about what gratuities are included. So we give good, so higher than the recommended average for all of our drivers and driver guides throughout the trip. So all of those things are covered, as well as any of the meals in the restaurants. So any tips that would be customary to the lodge staff itself is all included in the program. The only thing is that if you want to add on to that, you certainly can. I mean, that's kind of everybody's prerogative. I don't like to suggest that you shouldn't, but we do tip adequately. The only thing we don't, for example, which is very personal stuff like housekeepers or your transfer driver from the airport, because we're not there to give them a tip. A few bucks here and there is completely up to you. As far as obtaining currency, once we get out of Windhoek, at these lodges, as you can imagine, it's not like there's ATMs all over the place. So I would bring a decent supply of US dollars. They'll be, particularly for tips and stuff like that, or for buying small knickknacks or whatever you want to buy at any markets or from any locals that we come across. They'll certainly accept US dollars. If you want to, and I will certainly be having my Wise card, as I always do, because you can charge it up with Namibian dollars or Botswana pula, and then visit an ATM in Namibia. I'll certainly be doing that at the beginning so that we have some Namibian dollars to travel around with, and potentially in Botswana as well. But Botswana, they're very accustomed to the US dollars. So this is one of those places in the world where I say, it's a good idea to carry US dollars, because it's a good fallback currency, and it's recognized and it's acceptable everywhere and by everyone. But again, we travel with the Wise card and recommend it. Our members seem to love it. And you can charge up these currencies on there. You can pay by credit card for any additional services that you book in the lodges. So your alcoholic beverages or anything that's not already included in the program, or if there's massage services or any of that kind of stuff, you can pay by credit card in all the lodges. So you're pretty much covered there. We use an app on a lot of our trips called Telegram. Some of you will be familiar with it if you've traveled on some of our other trips. It's kind of less important here because we're going to be together as a group all the time. And so you don't need to worry so much about, oh, there's Jackie. She made it in. Yay. Okay, so Jackie's about to join us. She's listening along going, you forgot to say this. Jackie. Hi, Jackie. You're on mute. There we go.
Hi, Gordon. Hello.
You made it.
Apologies.
As I say, the technical problems always happen when they happen. Sometimes we can't. So this is Jackie I was talking about at the beginning. Jackie is in Cape Town, right?
I am. From as of about an hour ago.
As of about an hour ago. Right. Just back to, so I was just, so we are just to bring up to speed in terms, I'm not sure when you were able to log on, but we were just at money. I was explaining about the currency. When did you join us? At the what to pack?
Just before money.
Just before
as
money.
You were starting
okay.
money.
As I was starting money. Was there anything else? I talked about electrical adapters. I talked about mosquito repellent. I talked about sunscreen, sun hat, sunglasses. Is there anything else that people might not ordinarily think of that they should bring on a trip like this that you can think of? I talked about clothes and light, you know, and light in terms of weight.
Oh yes. I'm going to reiterate light in a bit. What might be useful is a buff or a mask, just to, if you suffer from dust. We're just coming out of the rainy season, so there shouldn't be a lot of dust, but there is, where the roads are dry, particularly if you go north, the roads can get quite dusty. So anybody who suffers from dust, I would bring something just to cover your face. Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah. Okay. So that's good advice. Yeah, we talked about money. So Telegram, if you want to download it, but as I say, we're going to be together the whole time. So it's not like you're going to be wandering off in the bush somewhere, and Telegram's not going to work anyway. So don't worry about that one. And if for some reason you would like to have it, or you're already on it, or whatever it happens to be, we can talk about that another time. But it's not important for this trip. So yeah, so let's touch briefly on the itinerary, and then I want to hone more on the average day and some of the things that are just important to know and what to expect, particularly if you've not been on a safari before. So you're going to arrive in Windhoek, and some of you, I think most of you, are flying direct from Europe into Windhoek. Some, like myself, are coming through Johannesburg, so we'll all be arriving obviously on the first day of the trip on the 30th of April. And you'll be met there by the local meet and greet transfer company that Jackie works with, and the phone numbers in there. For some reason, you don't see the person. I always say, look a little bit harder than you think, because sometimes they're normally standing right there with a big sign, but sometimes they're not right there at that moment. So just give it some time. Don't panic. Namibia, by the way, it's a very safe, ordinary, not ordinary, it's the wrong word, it's far from ordinary, but it's like there's nothing to worry about. It's completely normal there. So you know, when you arrive, all will be fine. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about that. Oh, what I do want to say, if you experience a delay, a misconnect, any problem with your flights, that you will not arrive on the flight that you're scheduled to arrive on. If the flight's going to be late, we'll know, because they'll check when the flight is arriving. But if you miss a connection and you're going to be not on the flight that you were supposed to be on, please inform us by email, delays@wheelandanchor.ca ASAP, as soon as you know, just so that I get informed of that immediately, that we can make sure that we advise the transfer company and that somebody will be there to meet you. So that's the one thing that's really important to remember. Other than that, you'll get picked up at Windhoek Airport, brought into town, into the beautiful luxury suites. I have not been to this hotel, but I think it's a beauty from what I understand from Jackie. You know the hotel, obviously, Jackie.
It's a comfortable hotel, and it's very well located in town.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
lots
perfect.
of access to shops, nice, good restaurants. The rooms are all suites. So, you know, you have facilities to make your own tea and coffee. You know, if you get there, for those who are getting there a day earlier, so if you just want to sort of get takeaway and come back and eat it in your room, or you want to buy something in the grocery store, you can do that. So there's comfort and flexibility.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll all meet there the first day, and we'll head out for a welcome dinner that we've set up at the Stellenbosch Wine Bar. So that's going to be a lovely evening. It's not going to go late because you're probably going to be tired, and we obviously get right underway the next day. And so, as I say, just to cover off on the map again, from Windhoek, our first leg of the journey is going to be going down to Sossusvlei. As I noted, and I have to highlight it again, all of the times that are shown there in terms of when we're leaving the hotel and when stuff is happening could change at any time because of various factors. We tentatively have flights that are due out because it's a private chartered flight that is leaving around 11 o'clock. But you know, it could be 11:30, it could be whatever it could be. But we're going to aim to be leaving the hotel in the morning by about 9 a.m. to head down to the airport for that flight. And obviously at dinner the night before, we'll know pretty much for sure what time we're flying out at. And of course, you know, I'm going to be letting you know on a day-by-day basis in consultation with our local guides exactly what the program is for each of the days. So the first couple of days, as I say, we're going to have this beautiful flight down to the Sossusvlei. We're going to be visiting these incredible sand dunes. I tell you, this is one of the most amazing things that I've experienced in my life. We will have some time to walk around. We're going to be, here's the other thing I want to mention, you'll notice in the itinerary, early starts. So the whole point of being in Africa is to see the wildlife, to see the sunrises, the sunsets. So we have a lot of early starts. So I'm sure if you're somebody that likes to sleep in the morning, you know, there'll be some opportunities for that, but it's important that we go to bed early, get up early, because we're going to be going into the park first thing in the morning at sunrise. And when you see the colors of the sun, you're going to understand why we go early. There may be the opportunity to climb up one of the dunes, maybe not the highest dune, because unless you're in really good shape, it is a trek. As you can imagine, being in a, Jackie, you characterize it as a sand trap in a golf course, but 300 meters high. So it's a lot of work to get up to the top. So as I say, we're going to spend a couple of nights in there, and oops, we missed a slide. And then we're going to fly out of the Sossusvlei again up the Skeleton Coast into Swakopmund. So we save a ton of driving by doing. That's why we designed the itinerary this way, by doing those two flights. And then landing at Swakopmund, which is a very German-style village. We're staying in town for a night, which sort of to catch our breath from that exciting first leg of the trip. We'll have a lovely dinner out, and then we'll continue the next day. And it's in Swakopmund that we will pick up our driver guides. And Jackie, do you want to explain again exactly how this is all going to work, what kind of vehicles we're in, and you know what that looks like from this part of the journey?
Okay, so the vehicles that you'll be in are all 4x4, either Toyota, modified Toyota Land Cruisers or modified Toyota Hiluxes. They look very different from any of the vehicles that you would associate with sort of an African safari, because the road that you see on that picture is pretty much the roads once you leave Swakopmund. That's what you'll be traveling on until you get to Etosha. There'll be the odd, around Etosha, there'll be the odd paved road, but the majority of roads around Namibia are dirt roads like that. Now, they're all, I mean, they're not rutted and potholed. They're all well graded, and they're all, you know, flat and smooth for the most part. But this is where it gets very dusty. And the vehicles are built for these sorts of roads. So most of the modifications, they're long wheelbase cruisers. And so you'll have 6 seats in the back. So you'll have sort of 2, 4, 6 with a little passageway down the middle. The two, and each person has a window. The vehicles are air conditioned. and they have pop tops. So anyone who has traveled to East Africa before, you'll know those vehicles, the Land Cruisers that are sort of enclosed with a pop top roof, so that when you're game viewing, you can stand up in the vehicle and your head is out and you can take photographs. These are very similar. The modification is a little less elegant, but the comfort of the vehicle is the same. I think there are charging ports in most of the vehicles, so you can charge cameras and cell phones.
Right.
As I say, they are air conditioned, but the windows open as well. So that, you know, depends on how much dust there is and how much air conditioning you like and all the rest of it, whether the air conditioning reaches all the way to the back of the vehicle. But typically you will have enough vehicles that you know, you can fit 6 people, and then I think you have 2 6-seaters and a 4-seater. Which means that it's a shorter wheelbase with 4 seats in the back. And then next to the guide, there's also a seat available for anyone who doesn't want to sort of sit in the back of the car. So it is comfortable, but I'm sure Gordon has mentioned to you, there is a lot of driving once you start the trip in Swakopmund all the way to Maun. You're covering a lot of ground, and the drives are long. So
yeah, the drives are long, and the roads are partly paved or asphalted on the main stretches, but as Jackie and I were discussing, certain stretches between Etosha and, well, even this part of this journey here from Swakopmund up the coast for a while, as I recall from my memory from years ago, it was paved, but then once you get into the Damaraland, it's dirt roads, it's gravel roads, so they're pretty smooth. You can drive pretty fast, or the drivers will drive fast, safe, obviously. So, but yeah, it's not going to be like driving down the highway in Germany. I would say it's you know, we just need to be prepared for that, and we will stop on a regular basis to make sure you can stretch your legs and all the rest of it. So we're going to make the journey as comfortable as possible. So good, and we can address any other questions about that at the end. So as I say, we're going to leave from Swakopmund, heading up to the Damaraland, Twyfelfontein. Got a lovely lodge where we'll spend a couple nights up there. The landscape as we go up the coast, Cape Cross, the seal colony, and then inland into Twyfelfontein is going to change quite a bit again. You're really out in the boonies at this part of the journey, this is a lovely lodge. We're gonna take some time and see these incredible rock paintings at Twyfelfontein. This is really a remarkable site to behold, and a little bit different from just, you know, animals all the time. So I'll just show the map again. So this journey from Swakopmund up to Damaraland, Twyfelfontein, we're talking about total travel time, probably 5-6 hours, Jackie. That sound about right? Yeah. So as I say, a couple of nights in there, then we're going to drive again up to Etosha. And so Etosha is not that large by African game or national park standards, but it's still a pretty sizable national park. It's a salt pan. And so we're going to spend a night on the west side of the park, or just outside the park boundaries. And then we'll have a whole day of game driving, if you will, as we make our way through the park from Etosha to the East Gate and Onguma, where we'll be spending a couple of nights. And that's going to be an exciting day, because my memory of Etosha is, I remember when I went there, I drove through there 10 years ago, and you know, I think I saw 4 or 5 of the big 5 in about 20 minutes. I'm not saying that's going to happen, because it's wildlife, you never know, but we're going at a good time of the year to see the animals gathering at the salt pans, right? Because we're just at the end of the wet season, right? Jackie, am I not telling any lies here?
Wildlife is wildlife.
Indeed. So yeah, there's never any guarantees, but yeah, it's phenomenal. As I say, I didn't want to get into the details of all this, but if you have questions, you can ask at the end or email us. And Onguma, a lovely lodge. I have not been to this one myself, but I think all of the lodges that Jackie and I have picked out are really top notch. And so we'll get another day inside the park before we make our way up to Caprivi. And this journey is going to be the longest of our trip. We're covering over 600 kilometers, which will be partly on paved roads, but there'll be quite a chunk as well on dirt roads. So, we're allowing the better part of a whole day to make that journey, but there's some stops along the way, right, Jackie? We're stopping at Grootfontein and anyway, some surprises that our driver guides will have in store for us along the way that will make the journey extra special. So, and we'll make sure that you're geared up for a long drive. Caprivi, again, that narrow strip of land where the scenery is quite different to what you'll see in Etosha, which is very dry, sort of semi-desert-like conditions. And then Caprivi, as I understand it, here, although you wouldn't notice it by this picture, looks like it's a bit more lush than what you'll have in Etosha, yeah?
So that picture is of Anguma Game Reserve.
There you go. See, it's not even labeled right.
So Caprivi is very lush because the Okavango River runs through this area, and a number of other rivers. The Kunene actually also spills into the Caprivi strip. So it is a very lush area, and there's a number of waterfalls along that strip. In fact, one of the things that you'll be stopping at is Popper Falls, which that'll be one of your stops on the way to your lodge that day. So you'll get to see a little bit of the river system that eventually spills into the Okavango.
Yeah, exactly. So I haven't been to the Caprivi before. It's been high on my list because it's just again a very neat and a different sort of an ecosystem. From here, at the lodge here, we then make our last long drive of the journey. It's not as long, but it's probably still going to be a good 6-hour journey to get from here down to Maun. We'll have to leave bright and early in the morning. And then we catch our charter flight again from Maun into Savuti. And so this is going to be the first of our 2 lodges in Botswana. And this is, it's all a highlight, but Botswana is just something else altogether. And so when we arrive in here, maybe you want to give us a brief synopsis of what our average day is going to look like. And this is going to apply both to Savuti and to Camp Okavango.
So yeah, the day in Botswana is very managed, and that really is just to help you to optimize the day and so that you can get to see the best the best safari at the best time. So Savuti Safari Lodge is in the Savuti Channel, which is the southern part of Chobe and north of the Okavango Delta. It is a much drier area than the Delta, so it doesn't look much like this. It's a lot drier, fewer trees, fewer bush. But this is an area where there's a lot of elephants to start with, and there's a lot of predator activity, in addition to the general antelope and regular game. Because it's part of the Chobe National Park, you won't be able to do night drives and walking safaris, but you will be doing lots of game drives, and this is really the best way to see the animals. You'll go out in the morning. Normally just generally in Botswana, you get woken up with tea or coffee. In some camps and lodges, they'll bring it to your room. So you give them the order the night before, and they bring it to your room to wake you up. In other camps and lodges, they'll just come and wake you up, and then they'll have tea and coffee served in the restaurant area. So you have all of that before you go, and often there'll be muffins or biscuits or kind of maybe even in some cases a continental breakfast, and then off you go on your game drive. That could be 3 to 3.5 hours in length, and then you come back and you have brunch. And as the name suggests, it's sort of normally mid-morning, 10:30 that you'll have it. And it is a combination of breakfast and lunch. So that will be your first big meal of the day. Then you have free time. So a little bit of a siesta. And if the lodge has any other sort of activities, if they have any lectures, or in some places, if you are able to walk, they might do a bush walk. Otherwise, I would recommend, if you've had lots of early mornings, it's a good time to catch up on some sleep, catch up on some reading, sit out on your deck and just listen to the sounds and watch the animals and just enjoy the bush. And then normally at around, and of course these times change seasonally, the wake up times, the breakfast times, and the tea times and the afternoon all change seasonally. So I can't tell you immediately now what times they'll be going out in May, but they'll advise you of all of that when you arrive at the lodges. So normally, say 3 o'clock, it's high tea, and then you'll all gather in the lounge area, and there'll be a nice selection of sweet and savory things, and tea and coffee. And if it's nice and hot, they do iced coffee. And you have that, and then you jump on the game drive, and off you go out again, and you'll stay out there for another 3 to 3.5 hours. You'll find a place to have sundowners, which is a must on every safari. So you'll find a beautiful place where you'll have a drink, a gin and tonic, a cocktail, a beer, a glass of wine as the sun is setting, and then you'll make your way back to the lodge for dinner. And that is pretty much how every day will go. Your game activities will change so that you're not doing the same thing every day. When you go to Camp Okavango, there'll be more water-based activities, but the sort of the activity timing of the day will be fairly similar for the 6 days that you're there.
Yeah, perfect. So that gives you a little bit of an overview about how the day is going to work. Laundry is included. You'll be happy to know at these lodges, so to the extent that you've saved it up or needed to. But this is why, the benefit we emphasize to pack light, because you can get your laundry done, and you just don't need to bring enough clothes for the whole time. Like if you have sort of a 3 or 4 day supply, you're going to be good because you can just cycle through. So and you'll be happy with that decision at the end. So 3 nights in Camp Savuti, 3 nights in Camp Okavango. Really some amazing experiences to be had there. And then we will take our charter flight, make our way back to Maun. It will be timed to coincide with our outbound flights, because everybody except for except for 2 folks are flying out that last day, including myself, from Maun to Johannesburg, and then continuing flights from there. So we will get you back to the airport in time for those, and that'll be that. Now we'll take some questions that you might have about the trip. And so I just wanted to first of all address. So there's just a couple of questions here in the Q&A box. You can stick them in there or into the chat. And then I wanted to address a couple of questions that came in by email. What about bringing euros? Sure, but euros are just not going to be, in terms of locally, like if you're at a market and you want to pay for a little trinket or something that you bought, euros, I think, Jackie, isn't going to get you very far, is my experience.
There might be places where people, to be honest, in Africa these days, any of the major foreign currencies will be accepted.
There you go.
The only thing with euros is because it is not as widely used locally in Africa, you may not get a great exchange rate. By all means, if you have euros and you want to tip your local guides in euros, there's no way that they would not accept that. And they also have a way of using it or exchanging it. But at lodges and sort of the more rural guides will struggle with euros.
Yeah. Perfect. I think that you've got the answer there. Frankly, I'm going to be heading to an ATM when we get to Windhoek and getting some local currency in Namibian dollars and using my Wise card. That's my approach. And so don't bother trying to get any of these currencies, Namibian dollars in advance in Canada, it's not worth the hassle and you're going to get a terrible exchange rate. So just don't do that, whatever you do. Patricia asked a question about potable water. I'll let you address this, Jackie. I think I know the answer to this question, but drinking water throughout.
Yeah, so when you arrive, when your tour starts, you'll be given water bottles, and those your guides will have filtered water, purified water in large containers in their vehicles, and you'll be able to fill that up at any stage. So in the vehicles there will always be drinking water available. In the lodges, many of the lodges, if the local water is not filtered, there will be bottled water in your rooms, and everywhere that you go you'll be able to buy additional bottled water. Some of the hotels have their own reverse osmosis filters in the hotel, and so then they will bottle the water, and at meal times, for example, you'll have purified water there. But in the case that there isn't any on the table, there is always water available at the bar for purchase, but your guides will always have fresh drinking water in the vehicle that you can fill up anytime.
Yeah, I've never experienced a situation where there hasn't been access to water at any time on safari, particularly on this type of a safari where, you know, we are trying to look after accounting for everything. So you should be good there. We had a question from one of our members about bringing gifts or anything for children, or, you know, whatever schools that we might visit along the way. We don't have any program like that in our itinerary to visit any schools or orphanages. Quite frankly, this practice is being dissuaded from by the UN and other agencies. And so I was discussing this topic with Jackie. We don't recommend giving gifts to local children, as it's just, without going into a long detailed story about it, it's just disruptive to their environment, and it just creates false expectations, and it creates more problems than it solves. And so if anybody wants to make a donation along the way, and, you know, there's an opportunity, then we'll discuss this with our driver guides, and we'll evaluate that at the time. But don't bring pens and paper and all that kind of stuff. It's just not appropriate, and again, it's not really part of our program. Let's see, mobile phones was a question. So I would recommend, if you are dependent on your mobile phone, like I am, we will be picking up prepaid SIM cards for Namibia they have pretty decent coverage. I mean, not in the middle of a game drive, in the middle of a reserve necessarily, but there's pretty good coverage in Namibia, not at the same speeds. There's no 5G over there. So if you're really, but there is Wi-Fi in all the lodges. So for the most part, you're here to enjoy the holiday. So you really don't want to be on a mobile phone anyway. And in Botswana, again, Wi-Fi at the lodges, but when you're out in the bush, I mean, so hopefully you're not dependent on Wi-Fi to that extent on the internet, because yeah, it's not going to be so much available. Patricia asked a question about lemon with my tea. Are lemons available? I imagine that they have lemons at the bar.
There will be lemons available, yes. If you find that there is a dearth of lemons anywhere, or if you're worried that there might be, by all means pick up a few while you're in Swakopmund, or ask your guides to do it, and they can just keep them in the vehicles for you. And then if you find that there's a lodge that doesn't have enough lemon, then you have lemons available. But yeah. This is Africa. We drink gin and tonic, and there has to be lemon available for that.
There you go. We drink gin. That'll be music to the ears of many of our guests. And yeah, the question was posed: how many of us are there in the group? And I was just checking, because I just had to double check that. I think there's 12 of us. Jackie, does that sound right to you?
12 plus you, 13, and
12 plus me, 13. Yeah, 13. I'm number 13. Yay! Lucky number 13. So we are a perfect size group for this trip. And Helen asked a question about Leos restaurant at the castle. Leos at the castle. I guess that's in Windhoek. I don't know anything about that.
Okay, so Leo's is at the Hotel
Leos, sorry, not Leos,
Heidelberg.
Leos. Yeah.
Yeah. That's at Hotel Heidelberg. I don't know the restaurant at all. I know the hotel. But I can ask. In fact, some colleagues of mine stayed at the hotel this time last year, and I think they might have had dinner at Leo's. So if you don't mind, let me come back to you on that and with some feedback.
Helen will come back to you.
It's not a restaurant I know well at all.
Yeah, I actually stayed at the Hotel Heidelberg when I went to Windhoek the first time a dozen years ago. And it's a lovely hotel, so I imagine the restaurant's good too, but we'll double check on it. Good. I don't see any other questions here. But of course, if you have any other questions, please let us know. Oh, sorry, Michael had asked a question by email. I just realized this as well about local customs, anything that we need to be aware of to avoid faux pas, and I would say, generally speaking, no. I mean, the key is what I say about being in Africa, like being anywhere in the world, but treat local people with respect. They aren't like animals, zoo animals, they're just people. And so, we want to be respectful of, who they are and their heritage and their customs. And so we don't go up and stick a camera in their face. Canadians don't do that anyway. I mean, this is not, you wouldn't do that on the streets of Toronto, and you don't do that on in a desert camp in Namibia. So, but apart from that, I think we established that there isn't really anything particular to remember, Jackie, as far as customs or how to behave or anything like that. Just be nice.
Just be
Bottom
nice.
line.
Yeah.
Just be nice. Just be nice. Perfect. Okay, good. Well, on that note, as I say, if you have questions, and I'm sure there'll be other questions that pop up as time goes on between now and then, just pop us a note. You can send me a note directly as well. You don't have to go to Paula or Barb. My email is not on there. Gordon@wheelandanchor.ca. I think some of you know it already, because I'm hosting the trip. So I'll and Jackie and I have a very close connection, so we can WhatsApp each other at a moment's notice. So if there's anything that comes up, do drop me a note. I'll be happy to get the question answered. And I'm really excited for this trip, for you guys to see this country. I've luckily had a little experience in Botswana and a bunch in Namibia. And I tell you, you are going to have such incredible memories of this trip yeah, we're going to have a blast, is the bottom line. So Jackie, thank you for your time. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry for the technical difficulties that you were experiencing at the beginning, but the main thing is we got you, and I appreciate you giving all the effort that you have to this program. And as I say, I'm excited to see you all in just a few weeks' time when we get together in Windhoek for our first meal. And until then, take care. Happy travels. See you all later. Bye-bye.